What do you think are minimum wages? Think about that. What would you think our federal minimum wage is? Well, you might think about our 15.50 hourly minimum wage in the state of California, which is not our federal minimum wage. Every state has its own minimum wage, but we all have the federal minimum wage. Today I'd like to talk to you about our federal minimum wage, that why it should be raised. Now you might ask yourself, what is it? Well, it is the lowest pay that an employee can legally pay its employees. Federal minimum wage is actually $7.25 in the US. That's $7.25 an hour, which if you ask me, that's not even enough to survive. And not to mention, federal minimum wage has not been raised since 2009. That's including COVID. So even after we went through this pandemic, that federal minimum wage stayed the same. Now let me talk to you about the positive effects on why the federal minimum wage should be increased. The cost of living. The cost of living has changed since 2009. Let's not mention a couple months ago, the prices on the eggs were very, very expensive. Before, you might have been paying $2, $3. Now you're paying about $6. And gas prices. Gas prices are still high, but you can't compare it to 2009. I mean, I prefer the gas prices from 2009, which were way lower. The current federal minimum wage is also considered to be poverty level. So if you're making this a wage per hour, you're considered poor. In order to not be in poverty level, you need to be making at least $15 an hour to be considered not in poverty. But if you think about it, you also have to take into consideration the family size. This might be referring to one person. So let's say you have a family of 5. Could you really survive and make a living at a $15 an hour? That would be very hard. And at federal minimum wage, you would have to be living paycheck by paycheck. As soon as you get your paycheck, you pay your rent, you pay your mortgage, if you could even afford a mortgage, because that's fairly low. Now, let's talk about possible effects that could cause if it were to be raised. And as I mentioned, it limits the family time, vacation. There's no vacation with 725. So now let's talk about positive effects. Some of the positive effects of a wage increase would include it would take people out of the poverty level because the federal minimum wage would be higher. And it would also increase the federal budget, which means the more money we make, the more taxes that get taken out of our check. The more taxes, it would help our renovating our streets, making, fixes throughout the streets, creating new bills. It would also increase our Social Security spending. How many times do we hear, oh, when baby boomers get Social Security, it's going to be gone and we're not going to get any? Well, not necessarily. If we increase that federal minimum wage, there's going to be more money taken out of our paychecks for Social Security, which means retirement money for us. Now, let's review. In conclusion, federal minimum wage should be raised to keep our country from being living in poverty. With the cost of living going up and everyday items being so expensive, wages should also increase. It should offset that. Um, it should offset that cost of living. We should not have to live paycheck to paycheck because everything is so expensive. So the prices are being raised, but our wages are staying the same. It doesn't make any sense. Not only will we win, but so will our government. They will have a bigger spending budget. More money, better future for our country.